Today on Cooking with a Lion, I'm putting a veggie twist on a childhood favorite with my loaded sweet potato and black bean nachos. And it's all happening right now. Let's get started. The thing I love about this recipe is that the time commitment and effort is very low, but the payoff on flavor is unbelievably high. And speaking of flavor, let's talk about Poblano Pepper. Now, Poblano Pepper is not known to be the hottest pepper in the world, but you never know. Every once in a while, you get a dark horse that comes out and gives you a little bit more heat than you expected. Thus, I'm wearing these gloves. Because if by chance you get one of those that ends up being really hot and you touch your mouth or touch your eye, let's go ahead and just not do that. So I have these plastic gloves and being very careful to make sure that the seeds are away from my face, from my mouth, just in case. More times than not, it's very mild and actually kind of sweet as it cooks. So get rid of these seeds. And I'm gonna go ahead and do like a medium dice on these. Just cut them into equal size strips to the best of your ability. If some are smaller, no big deal. Some are bigger, no big deal. Because at the end of the day, it's all gonna go on a chip. So we'll slice this up, give it a small dice, and I'll put it in with the other two poblano peppers that I've already cut up. And the other vegetables I have in here are yellow onion, same size, like a medium dice, and one large sweet potato, peeled and medium dice as well. The good thing about that is all the vegetables should cook at approximately the same time, which is wonderful. It helps expedite the entire process. And all the flavors start to sort of meld together with all the spices we'll be adding very soon. Now the vegetables are ready. Grab yourself a nice big pot. About 4 tablespoons or a quarter cup of extra virgin olive oil. That goes in first. You also want to make sure you use a fair amount of salt. Maybe a teaspoon and a quarter. And what the salt does is that helps also expedite the cooking process. It pulls the moisture out of these vegetables and gets them caramelizing just a little bit faster. And of course, at the end of the day, you do need that seasoning in there. So we'll sprinkle that right over top. And some freshly ground black pepper. I told you, it's really fast. What I'm gonna do is put this over medium-high heat. I'll stir this occasionally for about 10 minutes until the onions start to break down, maybe even get a little bit of caramelization as well. At that point, I'm gonna add a fair amount of chopped garlic, in addition to these wonderful spices, and I'm talking about ground cumin, ground coriander, in addition to some chili powder. Let that cook for about a minute, stirring it up nicely until you start to smell those incredible flavors. At that point, you add 1 15-ounce can, not drained, the whole can, liquid and all, of black beans, and about a half a cup of just regular water to get the whole thing going. Give that a good stir, continue cooking, stirring occasionally for about 5 more minutes until you get to a point where you start to sort of hear these dry bubbles, like psh, 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 sort of pop, and the majority of the water will be cooked off. At that point, you pull it off the heat completely, stir in 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lime juice, and then it's time to make those nachos. It is nacho time. What I did is I took a sheet pan, covered it with foil for easier cleanup, and then I took the corn chips, single layer, sprinkled some good amount of cheese, and then put it under the broiler until it just melted. Now it's time to add those beautiful, flavorful vegetables that we cooked down right over top. And the great thing is, we have the black beans in there, plus their liquid, which has a lot of flavor, but the water cooked off, so it's actually not gonna make these chips soggy. But that's why that cheese is there, right? Just to make sure we protect the chip. And once you get that lovely like string of cheese that goes right from the chip all the way down to your chin, that is what nachos, for me, are all about. And you can really, really load these up if you want to. Just to the point where, well, only you know the strength of your chip, right? You don't want it to break off, but that, you know what? There's always more chips. You can go in for a second helping if you want to. That's ready. What else? Well, I love a good sour cream. I'm gonna just put these little dollops, these little beautiful gems of fat and creaminess, which is a lovely bridge between those spicy or spiced vegetables, that corn chip, some of that cheese. And again, it's your game, guys. You guys can do whatever you want as far as the amount, but I like to sort of tease my guests with not too much, and it makes it like a really special occasion when you get to that chip that has everything on it. Now, onto this avocado. What I did is I cut the avocado in half, took out the pit, and I went ahead and sliced it in the actual shell, if you will, and you get these beautiful little squares of avocado. And be generous. You want to throw in 2 avocados? Go for it. You want to make your own guacamole? Hey, you could do that too. Throw that on top. The great thing about this guacamole and or just right here, the diced avocado, is it's not going to bring any moisture to it. It's not going to make anything soggy. So you can really go to town. And then lastly, my favorite salsa. You can go ahead and go green like a tomatillo. I like a little bit of spice so that everything is properly spiced. You'll also have like a touch of vinegar in salsa, and that brightens everything up. Even more so than those 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lime juice that we put in all those beautiful vegetables. Now that looks pretty great. If you had cilantro, you can crank that on top. But for me, I don't want any vegetables anymore like fluff to get in the way between me, my face, and this amazing nacho plate. So let's dig in, okay? Let's see what's going on. Who doesn't love nachos? Really, I could eat this whole thing by myself. And how can I do that? Well, there's a lot of vegetables in here. Normally, when you go out to a restaurant, you get nachos, it's a lot of meat, which is fine. A lot of that like really thin cheese. I could eat that, but I actually don't feel very good after that, to be honest. This, you can really go to town and feel pretty darn good about it because we have all those vegetables, the sweet potatoes, the poblano, those spices that are wonderful. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. They're nachos. You know what's gonna be in them. But the great thing is, they don't take too long at all. You've got the crunch of the corn chip. You've got a little bit of that salsa, which brings some nice heat to it. The vegetables are round, they're wonderful. They're sweet because of that sweet potato. The black beans, because they're already out of a can, they give really wonderfully. Then you have a little bit of acidity with that lime juice. And then of course the creaminess of that sour cream, and the whole thing kind of comes together with that cheesiness. There's so much going on with every single bite, and there's always more for more. You finish the first one, you make a second round of nachos, and at the end of the night, everybody's super happy. But let's say you have some of this left over, this wonderful mixture of vegetables that we cooked together. You have the spices, the cumin, the coriander, and also that chili powder. It doesn't make it hot, it makes it lovely and well-rounded. You have it left over, you can use it with eggs tomorrow morning. If you want to do tacos with it, you can do that too. What about over rice? You want to make a rice bowl? Absolutely, you can do that with this dish. To be honest with you, you can make this and then have it for every single meal of the day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and there would still be a smile on your face. Cheers.